100 feet beneath the Egyptian desert, a team of archaeologists is carefully dismantling an ancient stone wall.
We are expecting the unexpected.
They're searching for evidence of a burial chamber, hidden for the past 2,500 years. The work is risky.
Is it safe to remove the wall or not safe?
But the potential reward is a discovery that could help unlock the business of life and death in ancient Egypt.
Oh, there's stuff in there. Ramadan, there's stuff in there.
Let me see. No way. We thought it's going to be big, but this is huge. I think I am a very lucky Egyptologist.
Saqqara, Egypt. In the shadow of the world's oldest pyramid, renowned Egyptologist Dr. Ramadan Hussein and his team of archaeologists are investigating a groundbreaking new site.
This is one of the most beautiful mummies I have ever seen in my life.
A 2,500-year-old funeral home where ancient Egyptians, rich and poor, were mummified and buried deep underground. What makes the site so special is that nothing remotely like it has ever been found before.
The significance of this mummification and burial complex lies in one fact, that we have never found an actual building that we can say securely this is where the preparation of the mummies took place.
The team is partway through investigating this unique site. Their findings are transforming our understanding of mummification, both as a religious rite and a business.
There were so many people being mummified in ancient Egypt that really it was one of the biggest industries that you have going.
The people who were working inside the complex here were not just embalmers. They were also business people.
The first clue that this is no ordinary site is a deep pit carved from solid limestone.
We made a big discovery in the form of an intact shaft. It's about 13 meters deep. At this point, I've realized this shaft is an embalmer's cachette, a hiding place that the ancient Egyptian embalmers used to collect all the tools and the vessels they used during mummification.
The team has also found other deep shafts. They're using the latest laser scanning technology to help explore them.
We use a laser scanner to get a big picture of the whole site.
We're doing the 2 scans, put them over there.
To reconstruct the whole site with all contexts, with all objects in high resolution.
By stitching dozens of scans together, the team is mapping the complex both above ground and below. The scans reveal a network of shafts and passageways stretching nearly 100 feet down and leading to a set of burial chambers untouched for thousands of years. From the style of pottery found in the shaft, the chambers have all been dated to around 600 BC, when the practice of mummification was at its peak. It's Ramadan's mission to decode this sprawling site and rewrite the book on mummification and burial in ancient Egypt. To reach the complex, the team must descend a vertical shaft known as K24. At the bottom of K24, 100 feet down, is a hallway with 5 adjoining chambers. 2 to the west, 2 to the north, and 1 to the east. Inside these rooms, Ramadan and his team are uncovering an incredible range of treasures. Grave goods to provide the dead with everything they needed in the afterlife, plus dozens of embalming cups containing traces of the actual oils used during mummification. Ramadan suspects the complex has even more secrets to share.
How cool. Love it.
For project consultant Salima Ikram, the complex is a time capsule of evidence about ancient Egyptian burial practices and beliefs.
The ancient Egyptians were very interested in their afterlives and very invested in it. One of the key parts of having a good afterlife is to preserve your body. If your body is preserved and recognizable, your spirit essence can go into it and reanimate it. So mummification was a crucial component of attaining a happy afterlife.
On the way down to the bottom of K24 are several fascinating chambers. Not far from the surface is one that's unlike any other in the tomb complex. It houses more than a dozen bodies, buried in a surprising array of styles.
So we're 9 meters from the top of the shaft and 21 meters from the bottom. And this is a large room that's been cut off the shaft, and it really acts like a mini burial chamber of its own. This room is filled with a variety of burials. And here, there's this lovely, beautifully cut limestone coffin or sarcophagus, and inside there's this mummy, which has a beautiful cartonnage covering, but what's extraordinary is that it's gilded, and you can see this glint of the gold here shines through. So that's really a chic, upper-class, wealthy burial, whereas this poor being over here, I don't even know if they were properly mummified at all. They might have been wrapped up in a shroud and placed in here because they're skeletonized. So these 2 people are really very different in wealth and status, because there you have sort of the Rolls Royce of burials, and here's something that's more like a little bicycle in comparison.
While it might seem strange to find such contrasting burials sharing the same space, for a funeral business, it was simply a matter of economics.
We have to remember that mummification is for the funeral home directors. For them, this was a business. And maybe initially this was a one-person grand burial, and then their descendants were checking up, and so the embalmers kept saying, oh, we've got some space here, and selling increasingly economical spaces for people to be buried in. And so, like funeral directors today, they had to make sure that they kept making a profit.
Almost every inch of the complex seems to have been used for burials.
20 meters, we found in the south wall this entrance, 2 people buried inside, an uncle and his nephew.
Here, carved into the bedrock, is a mysterious sign at the deepest level of K24.
We're now 30 meters deep, and we have this entrance that's about 2 meters wide. But what is so important about it is this engraving on the top. If you follow the outline from the feet to the chest, and this rounded depression would be the head, it looks exactly like a mummy. Once I saw this, I realized that we're pretty much coming into something that is related to mummies.
And Ramadan is not disappointed. At this site in Saqqara, Egypt, archaeologist Ramadan Hussein has hit the jackpot. At the bottom of shaft K24 is a set of burial chambers dating back to 600 BC. They contain numerous mummies, stone sarcophagi, and decayed wooden coffins. There are multiple burials in every chamber, apart from one.
What is so mystifying about this burial chamber is that unlike the rest of the burial chambers where we have multiple burials, in this one we have just one person with a large sarcophagus. It is a mystery.
Solving the mystery of why this person was buried alone will require painstaking work. They'll use ancient techniques and the latest technology to open this lone sarcophagus and investigate its contents.
The opening of sarcophagi is one of the things that goes down in history as pretty much the highlights of every archaeologist's career. I'm absolutely lucky, my team is lucky. This is a career first for me.
Early scans of the lone sarcophagus reveal that it too was originally surrounded by grave goods, now kept in a secure storeroom. For Ramadan, these items could hold vital clues.
We found a full set of Shawabti figurines, something around 405. So this is a large number of those figurines.
Shaptis were symbolic servants, a workforce to help the dead enjoy an easier afterlife.
They're so important for archaeologists because usually we have them inscribed with the name of the deceased. Tadihor.
The occupant of the lone sarcophagus now has a name, Tadihor. And there's more.
Just by looking at this Shawabti figurine, we are 100% sure that the person buried here is a woman because it's a feminine name. Tadihor. This is a woman, definitely.
Archaeology has given Tadihor back her name. To investigate further, the team must now open her giant stone sarcophagus.
There is so many questions and so many things to worry about. Biggest thing for me is what is inside this sarcophagus. Is a mummy inside or not?
To find out, they'll first try to raise the 5-ton lid just a few inches. It's a task fraught with danger.
My concern is that this slide toward the back and everything will fall. But they are assuring me that it's not going to happen this way.
As they conduct this delicate operation, Ramadan is called to another chamber, where a colossal 12-ton sarcophagus holds another mystery. The team begins the challenging task of investigating it.
This is surely one of the most intriguing burial chambers in this complex. The height of the ceiling is almost 3 meters high, and the room is about 4 meters in length. And it contains the largest stone sarcophagus in this complex that is almost as high as I am right now. And when we find an object like this, the only thing we need to know is the person.
Fortunately, that person left behind an important clue. When the chamber was first opened, the floor around the sarcophagus was covered in a thick layer of sand, containing a large number of grave goods connected to the rituals of mummification and burial. Among these sacred objects is a set of beautifully carved stone jars.
What we found here are these canopic jars, and they are containers of the organs that have been extracted during the mummification process, mummified and then stored inside these jars. They're important for an archaeologist because they're usually inscribed with the name of the owner of these canopic jars written here. That reed leaf, a falcon, the quail chick, and the T sign all together reads Iawit. Iawit literally means the old one or the wise one, and this old man with the walking stick. This is how Egyptians used to imagine old age.
Ramadan first has another mystery to solve. He returns to Tadi Hor's coffin, where workers still struggle with the lid.
تعملي عندك صلي يا خال يلا صلي 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 بقى الله ينور عليك يا سلطان.
The lid is open.
يلا يا عم سلطان عفرتتنا وعدتنا بره ماشي.
Just enough to reveal what, if anything, is inside.
We get very excited when we have to open up something. You get this excitement. I always think of it like a child on Christmas Eve.
A 100 feet beneath the desert, Ramadan is on the brink of discovering what's inside Tadi Hor's sarcophagus.
ممكن الكشاف بتاعي؟ I think we're in a position to get a little peek inside. Oh my God. This is fantastic. What a privilege to be able to look at something that has been hidden and concealed from the eyes of humans for 2,600 years.
Having found Tadi Hor's mummy, Ramadan will now see if it can tell him more about who she was.
Can I have the endoscope?
The inspection camera gives him a closer look.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's amazing. I could see what I think is a wooden coffin. And I think some inscriptions on it. I'm not sure though. This excitement is killing everybody around here.
As well as Tadi Hor's Shabti figurines, the team has found a collection of other ritual objects, including jars, oil cups, and a jackal-headed charm.
But what I personally like the most is this model of a boat. It's symbolic because the Egyptians believed that the sun god has two boats in order to cross the sky. The main wish of every deceased person is to join the sun god in the journey into the afterlife.
Objects and rituals must have been important to Tadi Hor. To reveal why, project consultant Salima Ikram is 300 miles south of Saqqara, in a prime burial spot for ancient Egyptian royalty. The Valley of the Kings.
The ancient Egyptians had a really deep belief in the afterlife, and so a great deal of effort, economic wealth, and all sorts of things were put into making sure that the afterlife was going to be fantastic, because it really was an extension of this life, except better, and for eternity.
This tomb belonged to a queen called Tawosret and is about 600 years older than Tatihor's.
This is one of the most important images in the tomb because it shows the boat of the sun god Ra making his way across the night sky. Tatihor had a very sweet little boat in her tomb. It wasn't as grand as this thing, but she too was using this as her way of making it from this world into the next together with the sun god so she too could live eternally.
But Tatihor's extensive set of grave goods is evidence of more than just her beliefs.
Grave goods are a very good clue as to telling us what status someone enjoyed in life. The fact that Tatihor is buried in a small chamber all by herself with these grave goods and a sarcophagus really do tell us that she was amongst the wealthier people in Saqqara.
The evidence is stacking up. It would appear Tatihor was an affluent woman.
It is very interesting to think about this complex as a business place offering different packages according to the economic abilities of every person coming into this establishment. If you don't have Tatihor's money, there is always cheap alternative.
At Ayawit's burial site, something grabs Ramadan's attention.
The question is this coffin placed on top of another coffin? Is there another coffin underneath the one we're seeing right now?
If the sand in Ayawit's sarcophagus does hide a second coffin, then it would reinforce the notion of a funeral home with a keen eye for business.
Either there is another burial, a second burial, lying in the bottom of the sarcophagus, and the other option is the original coffin was taken out of the sarcophagus and then it was reassigned to the Ayawit.
The only way of knowing whether the sarcophagus contains two burials or one is to remove Ayawit's mummy, a task that would almost certainly damage it. To avoid that, digital archaeologist Matthias Lung is first making a 3D model of Ayawit.
One of the basic challenges of archaeology is that we always want to know what is below the things we are seeing now. What is beneath it?
Matthias is using a digital imaging technique called photogrammetry. It involves combining hundreds of overlapping photographs.
So I just move around and I sneak into every single corner, into every angle to have a very, very detailed picture of everything. I think 3D technology is perfectly suited for archaeology because you can revisit the site as often as you want.
Ramadan brings Ayawit's finished model to show Salima.
So I would like to show you something really interesting. It's this, you can see the bottom of it.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
This makes me so happy to look at a mummy that is very decayed, but he's still preserved in a digital format.
The 3D model depicts not only Ayawit's sarcophagus, but also his mummy. And Ramadan quickly spots a fascinating detail. But first, back at Tatihor's tomb, the next step is to try and find out more about the woman herself.
We still have a gap in our information about this remarkable woman. Age, health condition, there's a lot of questions to be answered about Tadihor, and the only way to do that is by examining her body.
A task that begins with removing her fragile coffin lid.
It is my job to know more about this person. It is my job to tell everybody the story of this person. What the ancient Egyptian tried to do, spending all the money and the effort into a burial like this, they wanted to tell us a story. This is unbelievable.
In the tombs beneath Saqqara, Dr. Ramadan Hussein and his team prepare for the most delicate stage of their investigation so far. Now that the coffin lid is off, they can examine Tadihor's mummy in detail.
Oh my God.
Ramadan is most intrigued by the position of Tadihor's arms.
The left arm being crossed over the chest, and the right arm just extending along the body here, was pretty much restricted for women that has connection to the royal palace in some capacity or being a priestess. This position of the arms is definitely for a woman of a high status.
This indication of religious or even royal connections is startling, and further evidence not only of Tadihor's wealth, but also her social rank.
We inched closer to Tadihor. It's a process of unwrapping something, and every time you lift one thing, you feel like you're getting closer to that person. You're getting to meet this person and know more about her.
To learn more, Ramadan's team prepares to X-ray Tadihor's mummy.
We can learn so much about the individual, their age, their gender, their diet, their disease. We're trying to piece together evidence to reconstruct the story of a human.
As technicians begin work, Ramadan revisits Ayawit's tomb, looking for the clue he spotted in the scan.
And I could hear the sound of this brush on the bottom rock of the sarcophagus, which means we have only one burial in here.
And because there's only one burial, the answer to the mystery of Ayawit's open sarcophagus is that it must have once belonged to someone else.
It looks as if maybe there was another burial there first and then Ayawat is a secondary burial. This is certainly possible because the ancient Egyptians often did that. They reused tombs. And often this was done because there was limited space.
A reuse of a sarcophagus. This really speaks about the embalmers who were running this establishment. They maximized the use of space to make profit out of it.
At Tadihor's tomb, X-ray technicians are hard at work. X-rays will provide hard evidence, allowing the team to make conclusive statements about Tadihor.
All the bones are fused, so this is an adult. She's likely more than 18 years old. And from the mild osteoarthritis in her spine, we would tell that she died in her 40s.
In terms of life expectancy in antiquity, this is an old age. 45 to 50, this is pretty old.
The X-rays offer yet more information.
Here I can see several objects, dense objects. It has a scarab shape, and this really seem to be amulets.
Amulets are small ritual objects paid for by the deceased and placed in the wrappings of their mummy.
Here is an amulet, which is the head rest. This is interesting. And yeah, and here, the Eye of Horus.
For Ramadan, the X-rayed amulets are final evidence of Tadihor's wealth and status.
The mummy is lavishly decorated with amulets everywhere. And it just confirms that what we've seen from the other burial equipment, the calcite canopic jars, the Shawabti figurines, the embalming cups, everything in this burial chamber says Tadihor was a woman of status.
And the ultimate proof of Tadihor's social standing, her lone sarcophagus in a chamber all of its own. Tadihor's mummy is just one chapter in the story of this complex. Scans and excavations reveal not just tombs, but also specific areas dedicated to the 70-day process of mummification. Tadihor would have been mummified on this very site.
Mummification was a very delicate and careful procedure surrounded by secrecy and ritual. Tadihor would have arrived at this complex as a dead body. She would have then been washed and anointed and taken into the embalming house, where she would have been basically processed. So her internal organs were removed, she was washed with palm wine, she was dried, then oils and unguents would have been anointed all over her body, and then she would have been wrapped up in linens before she was then taken and buried in this complex here. Embalmers themselves, of course, would be selling you different kinds of sort of plans for mummification. They could give you different levels of embalming. They could give you high-class resin, lower-class resin, fabulous oil, and not so fabulous oil. Are you using the finest linen or are you using coarse linen? It was all down to what you could afford and what kind of deal you made with the embalmers.
From written records, we know that Egyptian embalmers could take as long as 70 days to produce a finished mummy. Much less, though, is known about where mummification took place. Just to the north of K24 is another shaft, leading to an empty chamber. In it, Ramadan has found intriguing evidence that it was used for mummification. To see whether this was truly used for underground mummification, Ramadan has invited along mummification expert, Dr. Stephen Buckley.
We're going to put a climbing harness on for you. Okay. So it's just like putting on a pair of pants, really. 1 foot in each leg loop. There we go.
Until now, the only archaeological evidence for mummification has been above ground.
The reality of mummifying a body is quite a challenging one. You need not only the right materials, but the right environment to achieve that.
If Ramadan is right about the chamber, then it would be the first proof that mummification was also performed underground.
Don't worry, we're here. Almost there. Good, 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 good.
Yes, good.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Brilliant.
yeah. Okay.
Compared to the glaring heat above, the atmosphere in the chamber couldn't be more different.
That's what you notice straight away, that it's a lot cooler, and that airflow as well. Very different to up there.
This corridor, this is what brings fresh air and keeps the air moving all the time inside this place.
That's exactly what you need for successful mummification. Bodies can start to decompose relatively quickly. So a special space with airflow would have been the perfect place for mummification.
The interesting thing that I've noticed here is that large vessel. First, it's in the corner. Second, there is a wall that's built around it. Third is traces of charcoal burning on the side right here.
I can see that, yeah.
So I'm thinking this is a large incense burner.
I agree with you completely. You need a cool, ventilated space for mummification. That's vital. But you've still then got the biggest killer for mummification, which are insects. So the way to actually deal with them is to burn incense. So the coolness, the ventilation, combined with this as an incense burner would mean that it would be the perfect environment.
I have one last thing to show you, that this lid cut in the bedrock, it's occupying the entire space of the eastern wall, but the back of it, there's a small channel that runs on the side right here and then runs on the floor, and you could see it all around.
We know that one of the key stages of mummification was the removal of major organs, like the intestines, liver, and lungs. This ensured that the body didn't rot from within. Could these channels on the floor be the final proof that this is where that grisly procedure was performed?
It makes perfect sense to me that this was used to eviscerate the bodies, where you could take the internal organs out and any blood would go down the channels. This, because the space for mummification, evisceration, is absolutely perfect.
It's so amazing to hear that. It's fantastic.
This remarkable chamber is the first evidence of underground mummification ever found in Egypt. It suggests that this was no ordinary funeral home, but a place where the art of mummification was being reinvented and marketed. Ramadan believes that this same business mentality is why the embalmers chose to build their funeral home where they did. For over 3,000 years, the vast necropolis of Saqqara served as the main cemetery for the ancient city of Memphis. Its sprawling mass of tombs and temples date back to the very earliest days of the Egyptian kingdom. And towering high above them all, the oldest stone pyramid in the world. The magnificent step pyramid of King Djoser, dating from the 27th century BC and built to house Djoser's remains, along with tens of thousands of his grave goods.
I've never been up here. You feel so little in front of these magnificent buildings. This is amazing for me. This is a spot in the landscape that is so significant religiously.
Ramadan is convinced that the close proximity of his funeral complex to this and other landmarks of Saqqara would have been a major draw for customers like Tatihor.
And this is what made it prime real estate.
What's more, Ramadan thinks he may have uncovered yet another first at this site.
This rectangular structure right here, I think it has to be connected with the process of mummification.
Just a few feet from the burial shaft K24, workers are carefully excavating a new discovery. A 2,500-year-old mud brick structure whose unusual layout Ramadan has seen once before. Some 10 miles to the north of Saqqara, beneath the pyramids of Giza is a beautifully decorated tomb belonging to a high-ranking official called Ka.
I haven't been here for almost 10 years. But the scenes and the decoration of these tombs are all in my mind all these years, especially that scene here.
In the middle of a depiction of Ka's funeral procession is what's brought Ramadan here. One of the few surviving illustrations of an ibu, or embalming tent.
An ibu is a temporary tent made for the deceased for the purpose of purification during the mummification process. And we know that this structure is an ibu because Egyptians like to label everything. And here's what we have is the word for ibu. The reed leaf with the for E, and then the leg is for the B sound, and then the quail check is for the U. So what you read here is ibu.
What's so striking about the ibu, though, is its shape.
So this rectangular structure right here is what makes an ibu. But the main thing in it is that ramp in the middle and the two equal rooms on the sides. And what I have here is a 3D scan of our new structure with a ramp in the middle and two equal rooms or spaces on the sides. So I am 100% sure that what we have in Saqqara is an ibu.
This combination of an underground workshop for the removal of internal organs and an ibu, a tent in which the body was preserved and embalmed, is a groundbreaking discovery. It's evidence of a hugely sophisticated approach to mummification.
We always know about the procedures of mummification from texts and also scenes, but this is the first time we have different structures where mummification and the preparation of the mummies took place. This is very rare.
In fact, it's totally unique, which is why it will allow scholars like Ramadan to build the most accurate picture yet of how ancient Egyptians buried their dead.
Egyptologists have long had a reasonable understanding of how mummification took place, but what was far less clear was where these processes of the mummification took place, and this is what this site provides us with.
We can now very safely talk about the archaeology of mummification, about embalming taking place in an actual real-life structures right here.
And if the discoveries so far are anything to go by, then there will surely be more secrets to uncover.
The only reason to do Egyptology is because you enjoy it and you love it and you love the ancient Egyptians. You really want to find out what they were doing, what they were thinking, how they were functioning.
Personally, I never thought I would be making discoveries like this. We were always collecting information about ancient Egyptians, but a discovery of this magnitude is absolutely unprecedented in Egyptian archaeology.